Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the first community call on this new updated schedule that we're trying out. Um, we are really excited for this to start. I think that it's going to be a really cool thing just for the Regen Network community at large to have these spaces where we like kind of come together and share everything that we're doing. So this first one is going to be dedicated to product and protocol, but then of course there's going to be the registry, science and foundation one at the end of the month. So with that, let's jump in. Today's agenda, we're going to be talking about community events, that new schedule, as well as some upcoming events that some people are going to be attending. We've got Regen Marketplace news, and then Regen product updates from Corey. And then we're going to touch on some recent happenings in our governance, proposals and discussions that have come up, as well as have a community member come up and talk about a discussion that they put up for Cosmic Horizon. And yeah, finally, last but not least, we're going to end with a bang. Some people from Climate Wiki are going to be here to show us the product that they've been working on. They received community spend funds last year to start this Climate Wiki page. And so, yeah, they're going to be on to talk a little bit about what they've been doing with that. So community events. The next thing on this schedule after today's community call is going to be the Regenerati News Hour next Thursday. That is at 8 a.m. Pacific time, 11 a.m. Eastern. Then we have the Registry, Science and Foundations first community call. That's going to be on, March 28th. Sorry, these dates are not updated. Okay, yeah, so that one's on March 28th. And then the next one after that, and the next one after that is going to be the Regenerati News Hour on, let's see, April 4th. And that one's at 8 a.m. Pacific time, 11 a.m. Eastern. And then the next community call is in 4 weeks on April 11th. Yeah, so join us for those.
Can I add something real quick, Sari, just for community context? So we took a look at our community call schedule in Regenerati, and the goal with the alteration of the schedule is to make sure that we're holding space for sort of the different sides of community. There's sort of a sciencey side, and then there's sort of more of a blockchain side. So we're really trying to hold unique space for both moving forward in the community calls. We also wanted to streamline the where and the when and the why for the whole community. So we are either doing a Regenerati or a community call on a week. So there's one community event in a week instead of two. And so the community calls are twice a month for an hour instead of once a week. And now the Regeneratis are twice a month for an hour. So that'll be our new schedule that we're trying. If you have feedback on the schedule, if you like it or don't like it, please let us know in Discord or Twitter. We're trying to streamline and make the process of where to show up a lot simpler, easier, and more accessible for everyone. So
and if you want to do your own events, go ahead and just invite everybody.
That too, yeah.
All right, thank you for that additional explanation, Sarah. Okay, so other upcoming events, we've got Amazon Sacred Headwaters Journey. Actually, I was meant to ask you, Gregory, would you like to speak on that for a minute?
No.
No? Okay.
Not right now.
No worries.
Maybe we'll share an update later on. Thanks for that.
Sounds good. No worries. Thank you. Okay. And then we've got the Sustainable Blockchain Summit in Boston coming up in April 13th and the 14th. Yeah. Okay. Consensus Bitcoin Desk in Austin is going to be April 26th through 28th. And then, of course, Refi Summit in Seattle, May 24th through the 25th, which I know for sure at least a few Regen people will be at. Okay. So Regen Marketplace news. Who is taking this? Is this Emily or Sarah? Sorry.
I'll take it for us today. Yeah, so we're going to start a new section once a month where we talk about things that are related to the marketplace, whether they're sort of big traction points or new features or different types of topics that come up that are related to marketplace. So we just wanted to share with the community that the Jack Johnson, what's it called? The Meet the Moonlight America Tour offset their carbon footprint by purchasing 2,500 city forest credits on Regen Marketplace. So kudos to the Jack Johnson community, which is a part of our broader regeneration community. And so we're just excited to have been able to be in Jack Johnson in partnership. So feel free to go play Jack Johnson on Spotify and know that he's carbon neutral here with Regen Network.
Awesome. Thank you. Okay. And then Regen Network product updates. That would be Corey.
Hey.
Right? Hey.
Yeah, so I'm going to take a few seconds to just give an update on where we're at with the NCT launch and the building of the Regen Network Toucan Bridge. There's a lot of other stuff going on in the product world, and we're making updates to our marketplace UIs all the time, and some interesting projects focused more on the supply side of our ecosystem and helping with credit issuance and the data integrity for that. But for today, I think it makes sense to focus on something that's a bit more nearer to the horizon. We're just about getting to the end of what's been a very, very long product and technical arc of building this carbon credit specific bridge in partnership with the Toucan team. So for those who aren't as familiar, this is a bridge for TCO2 assets that are that fit under the NCT criteria on Polygon to be able to be bridged over to Regen Network into a new credit class that we are co-administrating with the Toucan team. And we'll be creating a parallel NCT basket on Regen Ledger that will be used to bootstrap a liquidity pool on osmosis. So the hope is that for the first time, NCT becomes an asset that isn't just within the EVM ecosystem on Polygon. It might also be on Celo as well, but now for the first time, NCT will be available to the Cosmos ecosystem. So where we're at with that, we've just in the past couple weeks created the group account that will be administering this credit class. This is the first time that we're actually having an on-chain group account administer a credit class on Regen Network, and the credit class C03 has been instantiated on chain. We are hoping either this week or at the latest next week to be operationally launching the bridge. We finished with our audits on the Solidity smart contracts that the Toucan team had written, and should be making those deploys, I believe, this week. And once that's live, our custodial bridge service is all ready to go to be transferring assets between Polygon and Regen. So this is a two-way bridge. So TCO2 tokens will be able to be moved from Polygon to Regen and also back to enable the liquidity pools on both sides to have some price parity and be connected in that way. So after we operationally launch the bridge, we'll be coordinating the liquidity pool launch and supporting with getting the Osmosis UIs already so that you can see NCT on the Osmosis app and do deposit and withdrawals. And then we'll be more publicly announcing the launch of the NCT baskets and the pool in the first week of April.
Cool. Just to share a little I guess non-technical or more market-focused explanation of NCT. So the idea here has just been to ensure that in addition to Regen native credits, which take some time to mature as we build systems and develop new methodologies, we are also backwards compatible with the existing crediting system, so that because there's demand from the Cosmos ecosystem, so we've been running this really cool Cosmos Zero campaign to help protocols offset themselves. And so that's built up a set of demand that these sort of legacy first generation tokenized carbon credits can help fill, and we can ensure that there is sort of this first generation asset eco credit that's available for people to play with, to use, to offset their protocols, NFT projects, and other sorts of things. And also just normal retail folks can use this tool to offset as we simultaneously take our time to build out the pipeline for native carbon credits and biodiversity credits. And I think we'll probably get to hear some updates about that process, maybe in not this call, but in the next week's call. So definitely people, or in 2 weeks. So definitely people should tune into that to hear sort of the relationship between these NCT assets and then the Regen native assets.
Since we have a little bit of extra time in today's call, are there any questions from community members on this? Because it's a little bit more complicated than the updates that came before this.
Corey, do you want to maybe just put into the chat a link to any pertinent docs that if folks have deeper technical questions about the bridge? I know that there's some information that's already up about, bridge and other things. Just, if people are interested, they can dig in to docs or to GitHub if they want to look at stuff. Cool, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and if you can, at some point during the call, share the Telegram link for Cosmos Zero, where all the protocols and validators in the Cosmos ecosystem have gathered up and are working together. I think that's also a really great way for community members to get into the game and see what other folks are doing with the NCT availability.
Absolutely, that's a great idea. Let me just do that really quick right now. Okay. Maybe. Or not.
We can move on if you find it. I don't think it's a big deal. Folks can keep their eye on the chat throughout the call. I know it's hard for you to facilitate and drop resources at the same time, my dear.
For sure. Yeah, sorry. Actually, I did get it just now. So
perfect.
Send that to
and I just put the Cosmos Zero guide for protocols and validators in the chat as well. And it looks like Corey put a number of the guides about the bridging from our guidebook, which is guide.regen.network. So there will be lots of other stuff published in the coming weeks. But these are definitely 3 great resources to dig in and get started that are both technical and non-technical for community members.
Definitely. Very cool. Yeah. Although the Polygon to Regen ledger documentation does exist, but that functionality is not quite available yet, I don't think, but it will be soon, so I guess.
Yeah, the guides are a little preemptive to the, like this will all be operational when we've announced it, basically, which will be sometime later this week or next week.
Well, congratulations to you and your guys' teams on this. This is a very big deal. I hope you get some very relaxing time after this whole thing goes down. All right, let's go forward then. All right, governance stuff. This is my part. So there hasn't been a lot of action since our last community call, which I know this is kind of a new thing, but the most recent proposal that we've had passed was Prop 27. And did we get Ishmael on this call to talk about this, or?
Yeah, I think he's here. Ishmael, are you here?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, nice to see your face. Hello.
Hello. So yeah, I'd be happy to do a little retro on this. So yeah, I'm Ishmael Angelo, and I've been a part of the Regen community for, I'm not sure, about 1.5 years, almost 2 years now. And on the Loa Labs team, running various validators throughout the Cosmos zones. And so kind of caught wind early about what was going on. We've had a rash of spam proposals get put on chain, and these proposals post malware links which aim to steal users' funds. And besides that, also some chains were getting hit with up to hundreds of proposals per day, really ridiculous. And the issue was because the proposal deposit amount was too low, and it was advantageous for these spammers to go ahead and post your link on the chain immutably for a low cost and try to get people to click their links and steal their funds. So as a validator, it was very, very annoying because we had to vote no with veto. I ended up voting no with veto like 30 times per day on some of the chains. Looked at the overall fee structure of various chains throughout the Cosmos zones and saw that the scammers were willing to pay up to $100 actually to get their spam links on chain. Saw that the Regen barrier was only $34 and that it was definitely within their means to start spamming Regen. I looked at the voting period for Regen and it was 7 days. And this is actually on pretty high end. Some chains have as low as 3 days. And it's like, oh, shoot, if they start targeting Regen, we're going to be dead in the water for 7 days without being able to do anything. So wanted to take some action and put up some barriers, some guards to protect the Regen community. Actually, when the 200 Regen amount was chosen, I'm not sure, about a year or 2 years ago, the price of Regen was about $2 to $4. So that's like about a $300 to $600 barrier, which really prevents people from putting spam on chain. And $34 was nothing for these spammers. I'm not sure the spammer whales. Anyhow, that being said, knowing that it wasn't actually part of like a regular protocol process that we want to have for our governance, we want to have a slow process, allow everyone to contribute, weigh in on their opinions. It being that time was of the essence, we went ahead and posted on chain so that we could put up a better barrier to protect the community. Also, that being said, there's definitely a need. I see that Sari brought it to my attention as well for more people to get involved in the governance process, and we're definitely wanting to look at more ways that we can support the community to get involved, especially now that we have some time with this barrier to figure out ways that we can make sure that people don't feel excluded from the governance process, but that everyone's included. So now we have time. We have a little bit of a safety net to prevent a lot of wasted time for devs on other chains and also the community members, and who knows how many people got scammed, because obviously I guess it was profitable for the scammers. So I guess that's about it. Oh, one more thing, ironically enough, we were working on a good governance guidelines document when this was happening. We kind of violated our own guidelines to get this up kind of in a quasi emergency situation. However, we're looking also to reach out to members of the Regen community, Sari, and other members to kind of contribute to this document and see if we can offer this as a public good to the entire Cosmos Zone community, what good governance practices are, and that we can all implement together to make the process accessible for everyone. And yeah, so I'll stop there. Looking to hear feedback and any questions, I'd be happy to answer. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that very thorough explanation of everything that went down. And thank you for your fast action on that whole thing. It was crazy for a minute, it seemed.
Sure.
Very insane. Yeah, so any questions while we've got them on here?
Well, I guess I'd be curious, just as a note about the conversations, maybe to have maybe to put on an agenda for in a month, this call in a month, to actually review the good governance guideline process. Maybe Ishmael and the LOA team could give a presentation about that. And review. I think that Ryan had created a really fantastic beginning overview, and we had done a round of like signaling proposal and governance sort of process on how much time we wanted to ensure that things are in discussion, and of course we shortened the governance window. So there's already been a fair amount of activity in the community just trying to think about how we do the best job with our governance process. And I think it's sort of a natural time to reinvigorate that conversation and discern, and I think what comes to mind is just being able to really clearly define and articulate the difference between emergency upgrades and normal upgrades, maybe have a different sets of categories, because there are, governance is quite broad. There's parameter updates, there's, sort of full chain updates, there's economic changes to the logic of the economy, there's all these different types of governance discussions. And I think to the degree to which we can start to understand those different categories and be just discerning, because stuff like this obviously needs a different process, because you can't tell the spammers necessarily that you're about to go through this process. So you maybe need to do sort of a different type of emergency upgrade for this, or if there's a vulnerability that's exposed. So just sort of noting, it's really exciting. I really appreciate your leadership on this. And maybe we could spend a good amount of time in a month just sort of really discussing this in more depth as a community.
Awesome. Yes, I agree.
All right. Well, thank you both for your input. Alrighty. So discussions, kind of the latest and greatest thing going on right now in discussions that isn't going to be discussed in a different call, is the adding different parameters to the allow messages. Sorry, this is actually something that we're going to have somebody else talk about. William from Coin Studios is going to jump on. I think actually next is what we've got coming up. So William, are you here? Are you ready?
I'm here.
Cool.
Okay. Yeah, if you go onto the Commonwealth right now, in the governance discussion, you'll find a discussion post about the proposal parameter change to add a couple messages to the allow messages list. And this is that would just the thought behind this is to allow someone using interchain accounts to execute either the purchase of a eco credit or the retirement of an eco credit from, in this case, from a coin wallet. And interchain accounts, if you're not familiar, is just well, it's pretty wild, but allows accounts on one chain to execute commands or activities on another. And that's the thought behind this. What that enables is that we could thereby create our own sort of UI or front end for that specific activity, either buying an eco credit or retiring an eco credit. And I realized I didn't introduce myself. But the reason that we want to do that, why would you want to do that? Well, that's where Cosmic Horizon comes in. And by the way, my name is William Molia. You might have seen me around in the Althea Discord or in that community, or in Gravity Bridge, perhaps. I used to be the community manager over there. Right now, I'm the one half of Coin Studios, the other half being Dan Pittman, who you may have heard of. And we are working right now on Cosmic Horizon, which is a space-themed sci-fi trading kind of strategy game built on Cosmos SDK. And one of the game elements is that players have planets, and planets fulfill various roles in the game. Without going too far into the weeds, though, if you've ever, let's say, played Civilization, and you have a fortress that's next to some land that's maybe mountainous, and you really want some grasslands, or you want something that's going to be more fertile, that's going to produce more resources, then you have to engineer that to change. And basically, in Cosmic Horizon's answer to that is, if you, for example, have a planet that's not very hospitable, but in the game, for strategic reasons, you need one that is Earth-like, for example, you could use a terraforming mechanism to transform the planet from one stage into another. And to do that in the game, we're planning to integrate this carbon credit retirement to kind of catalyze the terraforming in game. So while you're making these strategic decisions in the game, you're also retiring carbon credits, and so it's sort of tying that or gamifying, I guess, this sort of positive change that people should see in the world. Yeah, and thank you for dropping those links in there, cosmichorizon.com. Yeah, if you haven't heard of us, please join the Discord community. We are just in testnet right now, and game development is underway. There's a lot of testing happening. Mainnet launch is tentatively scheduled for July 10th, so not too far away. Yeah, I think that's about it. Any questions, perhaps? Oh, if you're interested, also be sure to you can if you go to cosmic-horizon.com, you'll find you'll find all the relevant links. You might want to check out our white paper. It's pretty thorough. I think that pretty much covers it.
I have a question just on where you're at with your Commonwealth post. So I see that it was posted on 2/23. It's had 89 views. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 comments so far. They all seem to be supportive, and some good notes from Ryan on what to include in the proposal, which is great from the Regen Ledger side. Are you looking for more community comments in Commonwealth to push the discussion forward? Are there other places that you're talking about the discussion beyond our community call? How can we kind of help to catalyze community engagement around the proposal? And, how long do you think, given that it's been out there, what is this, almost 3 weeks now? Do you anticipate that you'll get to a certain comment point and then it'll go on chain relatively soon?
Yeah,
I can jump in there, William.
Yeah, go for it.
Thanks, Dan.
Yeah, so hey guys. So basically thank you for that question. Yeah, I mean, we were just following the governance process by putting that forum post up so everybody was aware of what we were wanting to do. Thank you for giving us this opportunity to discuss kind of our plans as far as message retire and buy direct is concerned. As of this morning, I actually put up a proposal on Redwood testnet so we can actually start testing this functionality once we are ready to go. As far as any kind of blockers, really, we are ready to just go ahead and post the proposal to chain, to mainnet. However, there's really not a huge rush. We were just kind of, engaging the community and kind of gauging to see where their feelings were on such a proposal. And it looks like it's good. So really we could do it as early as today if we'd like to. I, again, don't really see any rush in doing so, since I really don't know of any other projects that are requiring these messages to be executed via ICA. If there were other ones, then we could just, easily do that. But again, if somebody feels like we should do that right away, then we can do that.
I have a couple of comments on that. Maybe it's worth having a little discussion about that. Actually, I think that's a really great question. So there's already been a few people, in a recent Twitter Spaces. Timo from Basin DAO was bringing up his desire to be able to potentially use ICA to issue like a Basin stewardship eco credit. And I know that there's other people sort of who are using other like EVM systems because of DAO tooling and other stuff, but want to use Regen Ledger and Regen Registry as sort of the ledger of record and the issuance system. And so, I'm just curious, maybe we should also consider some of the other functions, like some of the credit class administration functions as well, being able to access those via interchain accounts. So sort of a question, but Ryan, Corey, I don't know if you guys have thoughts about the pros and cons of that, but maybe it's worth including that in this round so that it's done, or maybe it's not. I don't know. Maybe we want to do those each individually.
I can speak a bit to that. I mean, I think my guess is that it probably doesn't make sense to do now. Like if we're going to have that set of conversations, the first conversation that we should be having with the community is this one that I think Will from the foundation initiated with R&D after some calls that he had with Austin recently about how do we distinguish and solidifying our understanding of the distinction between network governance of the administration of credit classes versus registry governance. Are those one and the same? Are they different? How are we distinguishing between these tiers? And when we have clarity on that, I think that it'll be pretty clear and easy to talk about to what extent those different tiers that aren't as native to Regen might want to be able to administer from outside of the Regen ledger tech stack and via interchain accounts. But until we have a really clear understanding of like how we're actually dealing with governance of credit classes that aren't like top-down created and managed through the registry program process, I think that should be the first conversation. And I think that should follow on from the Commonwealth post that we've already been seeing around like the role of the Regen registry and stuff. So I feel like that's the natural path.
I guess to just go a level deeper, I feel like that's all true and important, but there's also a level down, which is that if somebody is already just administering a credit class that exists, and what's happening is they're wanting to administer that, like administer an issuance, etc. So that's where I was thinking is like a level down just around issuance ability.
If we have issuers who are wanting that, then like let's talk about it. But I think that like, as I understand it, most of the issuers that the registry program is working with are pretty close to the Regen ecosystem from a tech perspective. And we're actually like onboarding our supply partners into the blockchain world rather than like us, you know, from my understanding, like the next credit classes that are going to be coming on chain or the ones that we're working with already are not ones that where the issuers are native to other Cosmos chains besides Regen. Like Toucan, for instance, are maybe native to Polygon, but there's no ICA support on Polygon. But let's keep, yeah, if you know of specific use cases or partners that would desire that, then like we can certainly talk about it.
Yeah, I mean, from my perspective, what it comes down to is exactly what Corey was saying. Are these projects native to other chains? I mean, that's kind of what the whole ICA thing is. So if there are projects that are already working closely with Regen and are quote unquote Regen native, then really there's no need to kind of, you know, enable an ICA message from another chain. But I do definitely see value for that in the future. Absolutely. I mean, there's Cosmic Horizon, for one example, is on another chain, but it wants to use Regen functionality. So it's already happening. I think you're muted.
I appreciate Sarah pushing us on. I do think that from my perspective, the more that we emphasize ICA and the ability and the sort of like, and Regen's role as an app chain and other dApps and chains' ability to control assets, but rely on us as the ledger of record and the registry system, the storytelling of that, I think, is really important as a counter narrative to the bridge all the assets, right? Narrative. And so that's the lens that I'm looking at it from. And I know people are thinking about that, but also most of our friends don't really get ICA yet because it's so new. And so in a way, this is sort of like, you know, there's a chicken or egg thing here. So anyway, we can talk about this in more depth, and especially on the forums. I think it's probably worth having an in-depth conversation about all of this stuff and getting some of our friends that might access it to chime in and educate themselves about the opportunity and share their opinions.
Yeah, and I just wanted to mention too, this kind of goes with the Redwood thing that I was saying. So if we can always launch it on Redwood, we can always provide the functionality to be tested and see if there's something that's something that they want. So Redwood is there to test. So I mean, even if it's like, well, let's just go ahead and do it on Redwood. I mean, I think that would be even. Yeah, exactly. As you're saying there, Gregory, I think it does make sense to just enable all the ICA stuff on our test net and just let people start playing around with it. Obviously, when you're in the development phase, you're not going to be developing on mainnet, or if you are, you're very brave. So you should be definitely using the test net to do that. But yeah, good discussion. And that's really all I have from my end.
Very cool. All right. Well, thank you very much, Coin Studios peeps. Yeah, if you guys haven't checked out Cosmic Horizon yet, definitely do. It looks like it's going to be a very amazing game. All right, so next we've got a Climate Wiki update. Do we have some people from Branch Out here with us today to talk about Climate Wiki?
I'm here, and we got a couple other team members, Yahya, James, and Keaton are all here from Branch Out as well. We've been working on the Climate Wiki project for over a year now. So we are looking forward to sharing more about the work that we've done. And this is just kind of a brief summary before I dive in with a screen share to show you some pages we've been working on. We have over 200 articles now, and that ranges from lengthy articles with hundreds of citations and a really in-depth exploration of foundational concepts to seedlings, pages that are just getting started, have maybe 1 or 2 links or some notes. And so it's similar to an ecosystem. You kind of have layers of successionary layers, and the different pages fulfill different functions. Taller pages may be more intimidating to kind of jump in and contribute to, but they also provide more information, while the shorter pages are places where people can, just jump right in, and there's a clear need and opening for getting involved. And overall, we see this as providing infrastructure for a deep ecological knowledge commons. So it's about valorizing the importance of ecological knowledge and engaging with it in a deep way that enables us to really sit with and through the science and kind of condense it, so we're not dealing with the crises of information overload with millions of articles in the news and the journals, but are able to bring it all together into conversation and connection with other knowledge, so that we can have the relevant contextual awareness we need to take the right actions. And yeah, so I'll talk about this again at the end of the presentation, but we're especially interested in community members applying for our beta tests. So we're looking for a small group of people who are interested in being early adopters and really not just looking at, but contributing to and playing a role in helping us design and build the knowledge commons at this early stage ahead of our public launch this summer, when the website will be accessible and available to everyone. It looks like I do not have screen sharing permissions, but I will go into showing some pages once that is enabled. Yeah, Sarah's asking what kind of contributors would be most valuable to your team at this phase. I would say, there's a lot of people with good research and writing skills. We're doing a lot of that, or interested in organizing and compiling information, sharing.
Did it freeze?
Looks like Thomas is frozen. So I can take that question while he gets reconnected. Yeah. But as far as people to join, we're, anyone who has really deep like research and background in a particular thing that they can build sort of a library of specific pages to help contribute to. We're definitely still in the phase of making sure that these pages are formatted and in a way where they're going to be most helpful. So anyone who kind of has, specific subject area knowledge would be really great. And looks like Tom's.
Okay, I was going into a whole answer and it seems like I disconnected. So thank you for jumping in, Keaton. We can talk more about that if there are follow-up questions too. And yes, the pages can include Regen Registry info, taxonomy. We mentioned an interest in integrating that for relevant pages in our original proposal, and so certainly open to talking about how we can go about doing that. Okay, let me see about sharing real quick. All right, is everyone seeing the screen? Yes. Yep. All right, so this is our update for Climate Wiki. We have the logo front and center. It's been developed by Branchout for the last year, and in the ideation phase several years before that. So just diving right in, I think that a fundamental concept that really helps illustrate our approach, and we've talked about climate justice in the past, and I think food sovereignty is one that we've really found helps anchor the work that we do. It links the political and the ecological dimensions of regenerative agriculture and agroecology in a way that is both grounded in global South movements, indigenous land stewardship, and is really flexible in just how widely it connects to so many things of relevance to the regen movement. And so we feel like this is one of those concepts that really helps the wiki provide that deep ecological knowledge. So just to give context, this is the index for the food sovereignty page right now. And there's so much more that we could put in it, but we're at a point where to add more information, there would be some entropy just from having too much. So we're working on sub pages and building out, a whole category of food sovereignty related pages. We could spend an hour just talking about this page. But just to show how much depth you can have from even one section of a wiki page, take the subsection on a just transition. And you can see the red links here are basically places that are invitations for people to contribute, right? If you want to talk about and provide sources, what is a visionary economy? What is the role of wealth redistribution in planetary regeneration? How can we have an energy democracy? Why do we need public transit? What goes into zero waste efforts? What are community land rights, ecosystem restoration? So a wiki format really enables us to have the kind of mycelial connection between pages, where it's no longer just about a linear presentation of knowledge, but about all of the interweavings between these deep concepts that really allow to build up a knowledge commons. And so we feel like it's important to have these foundational concepts so that we can maximize regeneration in a way that is holistic, so that if we are, for instance, you have land stewards who just want to know how to make compost, we feel like it's important to be thinking about how compost and food sovereignty are connected, how composting on site supports localization, which is a very important part of food sovereignty. And so we're both doing the work of science communication, taking something like compost and providing a succinct and clear technical definition, a guide on how to do the production, and our biochar demo from the summer kind of goes into even more detail about how you could have a whole directory of composting projects. Land stewards could add it in, they could share their techniques. And there's a whole host of things you can do with a wiki page like this. We also feel like our role is, we're really suited because we're compiling all this knowledge to highlight best practices. So for instance, with composting, you're going to be making it better with biochar. It's going to be reducing the emissions. It's going to be making the process faster. It's going to be activating the biochar with the microbes in the soil so that it's the best way to apply biochar. And there are a whole host of benefits that make composting even better when you include biochar. So we want to always be encouraging people to think about composting is great, but what can a composter do to up their game and really maximize that regeneration while having it in that holistic context of food sovereignty and other important foundational concepts. And so we see the Climate Wiki as both highlighting the best that there is to offer, but we also feel a role, our mandate includes providing a critical check on what is going on in the refi space. And so we have this role of vetting refi tokens that the community voted for. And unfortunately, some of them have some very serious issues. So I did my thesis on Monsanto. If you're familiar with them, they now call themselves Bayer. They have been faced with criticism for environmental problems for decades. They're producers of the world's most widely used herbicides and pesticides that are driving pollinator collapse. And unfortunately, they're interested in crypto and blockchain and using it to greenwash what they're doing. And so we feel like it's important that people in the refi space know what is underlying credit. And so just to give the example of who Monsanto is working with, Nori is currently trying to sell $14 million worth of credits. And they say it's carbon sequestering because they're doing no-till and cover crops, but these are still monoculture plantations with genetically engineered crops using full rate chemical applications. And so as much as it's a difficult subject for us to wade through some of these challenges, we feel like it's really important to have that balance so that people who are buying eco credits and just the refi space in general can hold each other accountable and make sure that we are doing what we're doing, not in the service of corporations that need to improve their reputation, but in the service of planetary regeneration. And so that is a brief overview of some of the work that we've been doing. I wanted to make sure to leave time for plenty of questions, but before we get into that, just want to again invite whoever's interested to apply for the beta. So we're looking for a small group of people who will really be able to work closely with our team and are aligned with our vision. We have to consider potential conflicts of interest around the tokens that we're vetting. And ultimately, Climate Wiki is still a nursery. So we're keeping the pages that we have right now, we're giving them a lot of tender love and care and making sure that the wiki is fully ready for its public launch in summer before we open it up to wider participation. Thanks.
Awesome. Are there questions from the community? Thank you, Thomas and squad, for coming. I think everyone's really excited to see this. Getting a good visual on, I think, helps us all get a better understanding of what will be included in the wiki. I think because we're sort of Regen and we collectively as the token holders supported your work with the community pool funding, I am wondering how we as a community can uniquely lean in. Should we be recruiting folks from Registry because they have a lot of scientific information that they already look at regularly that maybe they could contribute to the foundation, lean in and see where some of these topics relate to their work. Sort of how can we target our community to engage with this project most effectively for where you all are at right now?
I think both of those suggestions make sense as a starting point. And yeah, we're interested. We're definitely at a stage where we could be talking with the foundation about points of overlap. I know that climate justice, for instance, is one of the priorities for the foundation, and similarly with the registry, where you all have data and methodology information that we could include on wiki pages. That's definitely a place to start as well. We're also very interested in other parts of the Regen network that go outside of R&D, but would enable a wider community participation and collaboration. So if there are any contacts you have, other orgs that that are part of Regen Network that you think would be interested in contributing to our beta, we're certainly interested in having people from them apply as well.
Awesome. So maybe what we'll do is we have in the chat here the link for, I'm just scrolling back up to it, for the beta test application. So I think if we collectively as a community kind of circulate that, I could see the Friends of Ecolabs leading in. You could see a lot of different project developer organizations potentially be interested. I know we only have maybe one Regen Registry team member on here right now, which is Ned from the science team. I'm just wondering from your perspective, Ned, in regards to our project developers and the communities that are doing the scientific work, what types of things in the wiki would be really helpful for them to see, since you work with them on a daily basis these days?
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't have a great response right now. I think, this is something that we could actually be discussing in our high-low platform. It's something that it would be good to get the community to weigh in on, to see what the methodology developers and potential project developers would like to see or have better access to. This idea of a network graph that I'm kind of starting on may also be of interest to the Climate Wiki folks. And I'll be talking about that at the environmental stewardship community meeting in a couple of weeks, if that's of interest to any of you folks. But I hesitate to speak for the community, because I think it would be good to have a discussion about it, and I think high-low is probably a good place to do that.
So I guess for Thomas and the branch out team, are y'all already in the high-low platform that Ned is referring to, which is where like the science and registry members of the broader community are usually populated and co-working on things together?
I believe I am, but I don't think anyone else from branch out is.
Okay, well, I feel like maybe Sari, we can get that info and follow up with Thomas and squad and just make sure that your team is in there. I think what Ned's really describing of starting a thread with the community in there makes a lot of sense. And then folks can definitely have opinions about how they could use the information and how it could be useful to them. I see another idea in the chat, and I see Gregory typing a lot of different things about Sari's bot. Do you want to chime in with your ideas, Gregory?
We don't have a lot of time, but
this is our last thing, so we can just kind of like have ideas and help Thomas out here.
And one, we should definitely also make sure to get Speaker John Ash into maybe also next month, and maybe there's an intersection that could take place. But there's been a bunch of parallel work with ChatGTP and training like a subgraph of ChatGTP specifically on curated Regen docs and methodological information and other things, so that there's sort of a technically accurate chatbot essentially that we've been aiming for. And there's this whole branching, and Thomas, you may not have been in like listening to any of these conversations. They are all sort of like in public record, but there's been a series of conversations in which we've John and I and others have been talking about the potential for a large language model to sort of serve as a consensus reality system, where you're basically rating, like any sub community can kind of curate information, like you guys are generating information and curating it. So you can basically rate or mark information for accuracy, and then weight an AI large language model system to then use that to represent that. And you could actually essentially you could use something like Regen Ledger. You could use Regen Ledger to sort of govern that, to sort of like assign weights and to evolve things over time. So anyway, that would be an interesting way to pull information out of these sort of more, as we're ever expanding our base of information, it becomes really hard to synthesize it, right? And so I guess the idea being, if you have a machine synthesis that is algorithmic and you can govern the algorithm, and the algorithm is fully transparent, that makes it very easy to sort of audit, where the bias is, and to be able to then use the information very easily and access it very easily, and have a quite pluralistic approach where you don't necessarily, at that point, you don't necessarily have to sort of like, keep some information out and let some information in, but instead different people can weight the accuracy of that information from their perspective, and then have sort of a synthesis system. So anyway, that's a bit of a big idea. I'm trying to summarize it quickly, but there may just be an intersection between community members that generally are seeking in different ways to innovate around knowledge systems. And I think the intersection of that is just, how yeah, is probably worth just exploring a little bit at some point.
Yeah, I mean, we've played around with ChatGPT and GPT-3 a little, and are exploring, you know, what training with Climate Wiki pages could look like. And so I think that as these AI models become increasingly used and relevant, that ensuring that there is a knowledge commons that they can be trained on is definitely a fruitful way to be thinking about developing those systems.
I just shared a user guide in the chat for anybody who wants to know how to use series. And you should be able to do that as well, Thomas, since you're on our Discord. Anybody on Discord can chat to series.
Great. We have 1 minute left in today's community call. Do we have any other questions for Thomas from the community? We're already sort of circulating the Climate Wiki beta test form with registry and foundation members. And I think that we can give your team the high-low link. I know it's in, which channel is the high-low join link in the Discord, Sari? I feel like you have it pinned somewhere. Great.
It is pinned in a few different places, but all of the registry channels, Welcome, Registry General, and Science General have it pinned, I believe.
Great. So I think that's a good opportunity, I think, for the Climate Wiki team to lean into the community that would have knowledge there directly. So if you need any help, Thomas and squad, getting connected with high-low, please let us know as a community to make sure that you have access. And thank you all for coming today. It's awesome to be able to see everything. I think we'll close out now. You want to take us out, Sari? Tell us where and when we're going to be joining next as a team.
For sure. All right. So the next community call is in 2 weeks, same time, same place. And this one's going to be focusing on registry, foundation, and science. So see you guys all there. And thank you everybody else from the community who joined this first new community call. I hope you enjoyed your time.